Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I have an amazing guest for you, all the way from Utah, a very special friend of mine, and I've invited her over to discuss something that we have in common, multiple things, but we're gonna start with one topic that we're really passionate about, and that is that we're both an empath.
Yes, ma'am.
Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Maybe we can start with what exactly does it mean to be an empath?
So, I have come in recent years in studying what an empath is. There are different types of empaths. I am a feeling empath. When I walk in a room, I can sometimes feel people's emotions so strongly it makes me want to crawl out of my own skin. Since I have learned what that is, that it's not necessarily my anxiety, but it can be caused by anxiety of people around me, I've learned different methods of blocking other people's emotions, which is helpful unless it's somebody incredibly close to you. It's a little bit harder, but I think I had a breakthrough with that just a few days ago. So.
What is the difference between being an empath and empathy? Just to put it out there for people that are kind of new to this subject, how would you explain the difference?
So, empathy is, for instance, me knowing you're going through a hard time right now. It's not something I've ever gone through, but I can have empathy that you're going through something that I may not understand, but I can still be there for you. Whereas an empath, I feel what you're feeling to my core. It's different with different levels of people. So, and I have had experiences where I've met total strangers that like you're just drawn to them. It's rare and it works differently with different relationships. You know, like I can feel when my kids are having a hard time because they're part of me, or, you know, my husband or my mom or close friends. And having empathy would be them calling me and telling me what's going on, and then being able to offer comfort or whatever. Being an empath is me calling you saying, okay, I can feel you from halfway across the world, what's going on. Does that help?
I think you've explained it perfectly. I've lived my whole life as an empath. I never wondered, okay, what is it like to not be an empath? It's just second nature. It's like, it's always felt as a burden, often.
Often, yeah. It can.
Yeah.
It can feel like a burden.
But it's also an amazing gift.
Right.
And it seems like you already have very great insights into yourself and what type of empath you are. And you've come a long way in learning how to cope.
I had to for survival. I used to take a lot of different types of anxiety medication because I thought I suffered from an anxiety disorder. So about 5 years ago, I had an opportunity to be taken off of all medications I was on and kind of detox from everything. And I had a friend who was had a little bit different spiritual path than I did, but she picked up right away that I was an empath. And she asked me a series of questions that I answered yes to, and she taught me how to kind of tamp the flow sometimes. And as I mentioned before, it's harder to do when you're, like you and I are very in tune all the time. So if, for instance, we were on different sides of the island and I could feel you, I just learned this the other day, I can talk to you, and in talking to you out loud, I can calm the feeling down. And I calm it for myself and for the other person because I can feel the calm. It sounds, to someone who doesn't experience it, I'm sure, like witchcraft. But if it is, I'm a white witch because I don't use it for bad. But you're right, it is an incredible gift. I like to do service. Service is a big deal for me. So I feel when I can tune into someone's feelings and emotions, I can serve them better. So that's where the gift has been for me. That's where the magic has happened. Part of my gift is I can feel when something's going to happen. I don't know what it is or an outcome. Like, for instance, my daughter's dog ran away Christmas Day, like 4 years ago. And he's kind of a wily dog, and she was pretty convinced we wouldn't ever find him again. I knew we would. And the next day we did. That's a small example of many, but through the years I've just learned that when I get that gut feeling, I need to listen to it. So it's been very valuable in a lot of areas of my life, and I need to turn it up in others.
Has it been your experience that people discount the fact that you're an empath or judge you for it?
Absolutely.
Or treat you a certain way?
I think that I am of a certain age now that I don't care. So I know what it is. I know how it works in my life. And I'm of the opinion, if you want to be in my light and you can handle what that feels like, then you're welcome to be there. If you can't and it feels uncomfortable, I'm not for everyone. That's okay too. So it's been a hard lesson to learn that I'm not going to be for everybody. And not everybody's going to be for me, because there are people out there that have some really dark negative energy that I can't be around. That's how it works in my life. I'm not sure how it works in yours.
I honestly don't know if I have shared it with many people other than those that I have a strong empathic connection with. And some of those people are surprised, they don't understand it. So they don't necessarily believe it, like they don't ridicule me, but it's so hard to understand
Right.
when you don't have it that, yeah, you just can't fully comprehend it.
Right. Well, so I'm married to a man who is incredibly logical. Like, we tease him that he's Dr. Spock. So I think for him at the beginning, you know, I would say things, or I would like just know things, like, and I think he probably thought I was a witch too. But through time and experiencing some of the gifts that have come with that, I think that I've made him a believer, and that has actually helped me in believing in it more myself, because it, as you know, like, especially if it's an emotional thing, you're like, okay, so are these my emotions?
Mm-hmm.
Are the emotions in the room affecting me? Like, so sometimes it's hard to sift through and find where you're at so that you can ground and then let the other things fall where they're supposed to.
How have you come to learn how to tell the difference? Because I'm pretty sure in the beginning it was probably harder, and then the more experience you have with it, the more you can discern. What helped you with that?
5 years ago, the reason I was taken off all of the medications I was on, I went to rehab, and it was a game changer. It was life-changing for me. That first week, I could have probably peeled my skin off in sheets myself, because all of a sudden everything was really loud, and I didn't have anything to numb it, and not any of the prescribed medications, not alcohol, nothing. So that's when I met one of my counselors who was a fellow empath, and she explained it to me. And the relief I felt was immense, because I have thought my whole life I was crazy. And I was 45 when I went to rehab. So to find that out at a later point in life, it was very freeing, honestly. And it kind of opened up a whole different chapter for me of how to be me and not worry about what you thought of me. So for me, the first 45 years of dealing with it was a little rough, but the last 5, learning to navigate it's been kind of cool, you know, because we are special. It is a gift to be able to feel someone else's emotions and help them through whatever they need help with.
Mm-hmm. sometimes I'll be around someone and my emotion changes instantly. Like maybe I was ecstatic and suddenly I'm instantly depressed and I have no idea why. And then I look at the person next to me, I'm like, so you're depressed, huh?
Right, because, so I think ours is very similar the way it works. Because I will be in a great mood and like be bopping around, and then all of a sudden, that's what I was talking about, dark negative energy. And for me, I spent so much time in the dark that being in the light is incredibly important to me. And being surrounded by people that are light is incredibly important to me. So I make a conscious effort to discover who those people are and move in the opposite direction. And it's not a personal thing, it's just something I can't be around. Very protective of my light. Took me a lot to get it.
How do you cope with the heavy side of this? You know, what are some good tips that maybe we could share, that's things that work for you?
The most important thing is to feel your emotions. I am still new to the emotion game. I have to go through the emotion wheel and be like, am I mad? Am I sad? Am I depressed? Because when we can identify our own emotions, it makes it easier to differentiate between my emotions and your emotions. So I've learned that it's really important for me to be very self-aware. And I have, love connections are probably our most hideous and beautiful relationships because we feel all the things they feel. And so I have had, someone that I had that relationship with that is going through a dark time. And to be able to differentiate between their darkness and their light is important. And so that's why my holding on to my light is so important, so that I can recognize what theirs is and know that this is a separate thing, that is just something they're going through that will pass. It's not inherently dark. Does that help?
I hope so.
I mean, that's how it works for me.
Yeah.
I don't.
That's all we can do is share our experience
Right.
and what works in your experience, and because everyone is different anyway. So.
Exactly. And how I'm going to feel it isn't going to be how you're going to feel it. Like, I have walked into a party before and zeroed in on someone that I just knew needed to talk. And did the party go the way I wanted it to? No, it didn't. But did I come away feeling like I have shared some of my light? Absolutely. And that's how I maintain my light, is by giving it away.
That's beautiful. I wanted to add a little bit on like coping mechanisms and things like that. Something that helps me, because as an empath and feeling other people's emotions, sometimes I can get really overwhelmed.
Very.
So for me, it's very important to have my safe haven, to like go on walks alone, be in nature, quiet spaces where there's not a lot of people, or suffering, because even animals suffering can affect me deeply. So just having that little getaway frequently to kind of like recharge.
And that is exactly, the other day someone was like, you're so extroverted. And I had a moment where I'm like, no, I'm not. But I am. I am a people person. I know how to people well. But I need the same thing. I have to have recharge time. I have to have time to fill myself back up in nature. Water is a big thing, which is why we land in Curacao every year for a month in the fall to go scuba diving, because that is a huge recharge. It gets me through a lot of months before we get to come back. It's really important to find whatever it is that recharges you. I don't even have to be in it, I just have to be near it.
Let's talk boundaries.
Okay.
So, as an empath, it's kind of hard to say no when you feel that someone needs your help, because you can feel their struggle, but it also drains you. I know it drains me. And in order to be able to show up for someone, I need to have something to give. So how do you cope with that? How do you set boundaries so that you don't deplete yourself?
For me, that is a constant work in progress because one of my greatest assets and one of my greatest flaws is I love too deeply, and because of that, I will do anything for you. When you have reached that level with me, and not very many people do. So once you've reached that, it's hard for me to have boundaries. I have been learning them, and it's hard, but it's exactly what you said, and I have gotten to a place where I have been so depleted this whole summer. I have been on kind of a 2-year helper mission. I don't know, I've just kind of gone where I've been needed, and I had a surgery in April that put me down. I couldn't move for a solid 3 weeks, and it's a long time to be left alone with your brain when you're an empath and you're in recovery from alcohol. So I had to learn to sit in some pain. And I have learned that in dealing with my pain, I am less likely to inflict it on you, and I am less likely to let you inflict yours on me, because I am balanced. So as long as I stay balanced, and I have had moments where I've had people call me and they are in crisis, and the first thing I say is, are you in a safe place? What do you need from me right now? And I am in the middle of something. Can I call you back? And then we set a time, and then I make sure that I follow through with that. So it's such a small boundary, and it has been so huge for me. What it does is it teaches people that your time is valuable, and so is theirs, because you're willing to take a break in your time to give them yours. And
Exactly.
same with them. So it's a mutually balancing boundary, and it's the softest way that I have found to do that boundary.
My thing, the way that I circumvent it is by isolating more, I think.
I used to do that. That's bad for me to do. I am an empath that suffers from clinical depression, and I am also of the 1% of the population that when I take a serotonin reuptake inhibitor, it causes suicidal tendencies. So I've had to learn how to navigate that, as well as all of these emotions coming at me. And again, physical exercise, nature, getting quiet is okay. Isolating, there's a difference for me. I can get quiet, but when I isolate, I am not productive. I'm not doing anything for myself, let alone you. And when I am just quieting and I'm refilling myself, I am writing, or I am editing photographs I've taken, or I'm painting, or I'm out hiking, or I'm on the lake. So that's how I can tell the difference for me when I'm seeking into a depression or when I just need to be refilled. So that's how I tell the difference.
Gotcha.
So that being said, it is okay to take moments because I talked about earlier feeling your emotions. So I have had some personal things that I have had to deal with on this trip. We've talked about this. I love this island. It gives me a lot of pain, but I never leave weaker for it. I always leave stronger. Part of that is sitting in whatever emotion I'm feeling, making sure it's mine. And if I need to cry, cry. And I had that day yesterday, and I just couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. And I felt it, and we watched a couple movies, and, funny movies, and it elevates you. So anytime I can bring something, a book, music, I have a little cute 15-pound dog at home, and we have dance parties often. So when I am starting to feel like I'm isolating and not really dealing with my emotion, I dance it out. Me and my little dog dance it out, and it's great. It's the best time. And that's been a huge solution for me. That's been really helpful. Her name is Magic. 5 years ago, the first time I came to this island, I was in pretty bad shape. And it was one of the first gifts this, being here in Curacao gave me, staring out at the ocean thinking, what am I gonna do? I literally walked out of rehab and walked onto a plane. And the first week I spent crying, and then I made a decision to, I was scuba certified, a very timid diver, but that last 2 weeks we dove. And I very quickly figured out how healing water was for me. And that's been the most beautiful gift of, discovering that I'm an empath and how to channel that. And part of the discovery of that is getting to know who you are, because you have to. You have to be able to know what you're feeling and what you're feeling and what they're feeling. So this island I refer to as my magic island with the magic pink clouds. And so when I got my dog a year and a half ago, the obvious choice was to name her Magic, who dances with me to hip hop.
So you've mentioned that you were in recovery, and so am I. That's where we met.
Yes, ma'am.
And I just want to ask you if you feel like being an empath has played either in your drinking days or in your recovery days, like if you think it has an effect on your recovery or if it played a role in your drinking.
Both. Before I really understood, drinking was a way to get quiet. A really quick, fast, destructive way to get quiet for me. It worked for a long time. I also am an insomniac, so most people need 8 hours of sleep. If I can get 4 in a row, it's a good day. It is a really good day. So drinking was a way to shut my brain down. But it is a progressive illness. And so when you're constantly doing that, something happens to your spirit. It dies. The light goes away. The very last drunk I had, my spirit died. And I had a choice. I had a choice to do the work to stick around and be of service to my fellow man, or I could just let the light go out. And I don't know how it is for anybody else, but for me, it wasn't even an option. So I took that and I ran with it because, this is probably my 87th life. I'm not kidding. Like, I have pushed the limit of death way too many times. This is my last one. It's really important that I make it count. And so I started learning. I started learning everything that I thought was fascinating. And I hope I'm never done. I hope I'm constantly learning new things and new avenues and new ways to do things. And that's why I love that we're talking about this, because I think there are a lot of people in recovery that have empathic abilities that don't know what they are. And so that's such a destructive but useful way to make the emotions be quiet. Getting sober for me was a blessing, more than a curse, but learning how, being open and willing to learn a new way for someone at my age was really hard. So I did it the only way I know how to, is to go 150% in. I had to discover what my old habits were, look at them, and throw them away. Mm-hmm. And knowing that I was doing that I was still going to be human, but the degree of my screw-ups have gone from like over here, you know, to progressively like just human nature miscommunications. And hopefully, you know, when that happens, I can make that right where I have been, you know, where I have been wrong. And that's one of the things recovery taught me. And that's been vital to learning how to deal with this gift. Because when you walk into a room of recovering addicts and alcoholics, there's a lot of pain in there. And being able to know how to sift through that was really hard at first. And it just gets easier with time, practice, like with anything.
Yeah.
I volunteer a lot of my time to other alcoholics and addicts to give them the gift that was given to me by someone who volunteered their time. And that person was someone I admire greatly, and she changed my life for the better, and she's probably the only person that can yell at me to this day, and I actually listen because her lessons have landed and they have changed me as a human being. And so to be able to see that change in other women that I get to help or other people, it is mutually beneficial in the way that I feel like I have given back just a tiny portion of what was so beautifully given to me. So that's what the service is about. I am so grateful to be here, and I love that I get to see you twice a year now, possibly as time goes forward, maybe a little bit more. Thank you for having me. I love watching your YouTube channel. I love it. It's been a lot of fun, and I've learned a lot.
Thank you.
So thank you for inviting me to be a part of that. It means a lot to me.
I'm really grateful that you took the time to show up here and share something so personal to you. And hopefully we've also helped someone by sharing our stories.
Even if we just share our story and one person gets help, that's what I do this for.
Yeah.
So thank you. Thank you to all the audience.
They're troopers.
Now, a message from our sponsor.
Oh no.
Thank you for coming. That was the show. Bye, guys.
That's the closing statement. Bam. We're done. We're done.
We're losing light. I'm sorry. That's all we got.
And cut.
Now back to the gun show.
Back to the gun show.
Jen, I want to thank you for making the time. I can't do it.
Do it again.
I'm really bad on camera. Did you notice? I can't be in front and behind it. It's too much. For me, isolating was probably, hold on, beasts in my face.
Pause for pieces.
Pause for beast. Beast pause. Take it in my eyelash.
Queen bees. They want to be on camera too.
They do. I know, I'm like.